Okay, so you saw from the video one of the places that gives us an idea of maybe what happened to the Minoan civilization is an island just north of Crete, which also had a Minoan um, city on it. And this was Thera, or modern day Santorini. Um, Thera used to look like this, but because of a volcanic eruption that occurred just before the collapse of the Minoan civilization, you can see that a huge chunk of the center of the island sunk right into the ocean. This is a volcanic island. This is what it looks like today. So this used to be solid rock, solid part of the island. And this probably had a catastrophic effect on the Minoan civilization, as you saw, in three ways. First off, it created an enormous tsunami which devastated the coastline. Then it put all this volcanic ash into the air, which destroyed the agricultural system, which led to starvation, which led to people abandoning places like Knossos. The power of the leaders shrank as people moved to independent communities, and that was pretty much the end of the Minoan civilization. Right? So it was a natural disaster, a volcanic eruption, that really spelled the end of the Minoan civilization. An interesting sort of side note is that some people think that the destruction of the Minoan civilization, the destruction of Santorini, specifically of Thera, and the sinking of the island into the sea, might have been inspiration for the story of Atlantis that was invented later on by Plato. There was no real Atlantis. It was a story that was made up by Plato later on, about 1,000 years later, but it might have been based on what happened in ancient Thera. So who took over Crete after the Minoan civilization pretty much sank? The Mycenaeans. Who were the Mycenaeans? Well, they lived just north of the Minoans, and these are the ancient Greeks. They spoke ancient Greek, the same language as the Greeks we know from classical times. So around 1400, these Mycenaean Greeks became very, very powerful. These Greeks are the Greeks of the legendary Trojan War. Right, so when you read the Iliad and you read about the Trojan War, you know that the king of Mycenae led an expedition of all these Greek city-states over to Troy, to bring back Helen of Troy, and you know the whole story. The Mycenaeans were a different culture than the Minoans. The Mycenaeans were composed of warlike city-states. And Mycenae, the city of Mycenae, was a fortified, large settlement. Right? And you can see evidence of warfare, not just from the large walls around Mycenae, but from the weapons that were found, and the armor that was found, and the depictions of soldiers that were found in Mycenaean deposits. They buried kings in these large, you can see these tombs that had the remains of ancient kings, including gold death masks. Like the Minoans, the Mycenaeans also emulated writing systems and invented their own hieroglyphic writing system. The language that they're writing is Greek, but it's written in hieroglyphs. This was before the Greeks used the alphabet. You're here probably in the presentation about Pylos and the writing from Pylos. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the summary video that I'm going to post about collapse. But the late Bronze Age that the Mycenaean civilization existed in was an international time. Right? That is, all of these different civilizations were trading with each other. And this is really what we would call a palace economy system. The palaces were really the ones who were focused on trade. They needed to trade with each other to make prestige goods and also for raw materials to make weapons and armor and things like that. If you were not tapped into this trading system, your civilization would not function very well. All of these different areas had different goods to trade. The Mycenaeans specialized in taking over the Minoan trade routes and not only trading goods, but also they became some of the merchantmen of the time. That is, they built the ships, they sailed the ships with different members of the crew to different areas to trade these goods. How do we know this? Well, one of the ways we know this is from a shipwreck that was found right off the coast of Turkey. It's the oldest shipwreck ever discovered. It dates to the 1300s BC. And it's got goods from all over the Mediterranean on it. So goods from different areas in one ship shows that this ship was moving around and trading goods and picking up goods from different areas, such as copper ingots, hippopotamus ivory, elephant ivory, resin, glass. Right? Here you can see a very large copper ingot, swords, spears. This is a Mycenaean style sword. It's a personal weapon, so probably at least several of the crew members were Mycenaeans. This ship was picking up and trading goods, and then maybe it was on its way back to Mycenae when it sank right off the coast of Turkey. In my summary video, I'll talk about the collapse of the Mycenaeans and this whole late Bronze Age system. You're going to hear more about it in one of the class presentations. Right? Okay, so please check out those group presentations, and then I will talk more to you guys soon. Thank you.